Say it with me, you never really know what's going on behind the screen. I used to watch not her, but her sister's YouTube channel, and the shock of seeing her go to prison for what she did to those children, it was one of those where my jaw was on the floor, but I had no one to talk about it with, so now here we are talking about it together. We're talking about Ruby Franke. This case does involve children. If you think that listening to this is going to harm your mental health in any way, please don't watch it. I will see you in my next video that doesn't have anything to do with children. Please take care of yourselves. Love you. On August 30th of 2023, police received a 911 call from a man reporting that a 12-year-old little boy showed up at his front door asking for help. The little boy seemed to be extremely malnourished. He was covered in wounds. He was asking for food and water. He had tape and lacerations around his ankles. That little boy had escaped a neighbor's house by climbing out of a window, and it was clear that he was very, very afraid when he showed up to that man's house and asked him to call the police. So how did we get here? How did this little boy find himself in a situation that he had to escape and seek help? Let's go back, start from the beginning. Ruby Franke, she was born in Utah where she grew up with her 3 sisters. She went on to meet a man named Kevin who she married and had 6 children with. The family was Mormon, and in 2015 Ruby and Kevin started a family YouTube channel that they called 8 Passengers, where they would vlog, primarily Ruby, about their day-to-day life. The channel basically followed around this Mormon family doing very relatable things such as taking the kids to school, cooking at home, taking care of the kids, doing family activities. Ruby said that she liked to vlog because it would help her live in the present and enjoy her children. And honestly, the channel was very popular because the family was so relatable, and other Mormon moms would watch these videos and they would start to look up to Ruby. Their channel gained social media attention quickly, and at their peak, 8 Passengers had around 2.5 million subscribers. Through these YouTube videos, because it was a family channel and the children were so involved in it, a lot of the videos showed the way that Ruby and Kevin would raise and discipline their children, and because of that, Ruby and Kevin would often get backlash and criticism from subscribers that didn't agree with their parenting style. But it slowly turned from just not agreeing to the way that the children were being treated to genuine concern from followers regarding the children's well-being. Because of certain things that Ruby would say, it made people go, hold on, that's not normal, and I'll give you some examples. In one vlog, Ruby is talking about how her 6-year-old daughter, 6 years old, forgot to take her lunch to school, and Ruby said that she hoped that nobody would give her food so that she would learn her lesson. She said, quote, hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch because then she's not going to learn the natural outcome, end quote. In another video where her sons are play fighting, Ruby tells them to stop or else they would lose their privilege to eat dinner. In another video, Ruby's 15-year-old son mentioned how he got in trouble for playing a prank on one of his siblings, and in return he got his bedroom taken away, and he had been sleeping in a beanbag for 7 months as a form of punishment. And the way that these kids were in the video was very lighthearted. The kids were probably pretending to be okay, or else they would probably get in trouble. But when Ruby would talk about these things, she was kind of giggling. She would laugh at certain things. The kids would laugh too sometimes, but it didn't take long for viewers to start growing real strong concern. As far as the dynamic of the household goes, in the beginning of their marriage, Kevin was the head of the household. He was the protector, the provider, you know, he provided the family with financial stability, and Ruby was the stay-at-home mom who would take care of the kids. But when Ruby started making a lot of money through brand deals and sponsorships on social media, the roles kind of switched, and there was a power dynamic that changed. And it kind of turned into whatever Ruby says we're going to do, we are going to do. Ruby and Kevin obviously recognized the backlash and the judgment that they were getting from their parenting style, and at first it was just kind of like, it's just haters, people that are coming online for the sake of just hating. But then it seems like it really did start to affect them, and their posting schedule really started to slow down. They went from posting every day to posting 4 times a week to 2 times a week, until eventually they stopped posting at all, leading to the end of their channel in 2022. But that wasn't the end of Ruby Franke's life on social media, not at all. And this is when we introduce Jodi Hildebrandt. Jodi Hildebrandt, a mental health counselor who ran a life coaching program called Connections. Since starting Connections in 2007, she had a reputation in Utah's LDS community for helping people who were heading down the wrong path and offering advice and providing counseling on relationships and parenting. Jodi's big thing was distortion, distorting the truth, and she believed that she could teach people principles that were communicated to her by God to help them get away from distortion and to help them learn how to live in truth. Jodi basically believed that everything was a sin. She believed that watching was a sin, and if you watched it once, you had an addiction and you needed severe help. Jodi advocated for leaving spouses because if something was wrong in your relationship, it was the man's fault because he wasn't living in truth. It said that she hated men and would try to isolate people from their partners. In her group Connections, it was kind of structured to reel you in and, in my opinion, brainwash you and make it basically impossible for you to leave. This is a quote from Ruby later describing the beliefs that Jodi installed in her. Quote, I was led to believe that this world was an evil place filled with cops who control, hospitals that injure, government government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abuse, end quote. Yeah, it sounds mental because it is. Jodi gives off very, very, very strong cult leader vibes, in my opinion. So, Ruby met Jodi in 2019 when she was looking for advice in parenting, and Jodi was a therapist for Ruby's son and then for her daughter, and she would give Ruby all these new rules and regulations to implement in her family, as well as advice for her and Kevin's marriage. Around 2020, maybe 2021 was when things started to get really weird and really bad. Ruby basically lost it. Ruby would get into trance where she would allegedly believe that she was in heaven speaking to God and Jesus. She would lock herself in a room with Jodi, and apparently God would talk to them and give them missions to complete. Ruby would fixate on religious beliefs and talk about the devil, demons, and possession. She labeled her kids as satanic. And another time when describing her son, who she believed to be satanic, she said, quote, "He slithers and sneaks around looking for opportunities when no one is watching." As far as Kevin, the closer that Jodi and Ruby got, the more distant Ruby and Kevin got, because Jodi was able to convince Ruby and Kevin that there was something wrong with Kevin that was affecting their marriage, and in order to work on himself and fix his issues, Kevin had to go. Around the summer of 2022, Ruby invited Kevin to leave the family house so he could go work on himself because his attitude was infesting the family. Those are her words. Ruby said the only way for their marriage to survive would be for Kevin to leave, and Kevin would not be allowed to contact any of them unless Ruby contacted him first, which I read was only around 3 to 4 times throughout the next year. He told his older daughter, quote, "Once I'm better, I'll come back and we can be a happy family again. I will be gone for at least a year." And I believe the oldest son was also invited to leave the home, and he left as well. I'm not sure where. I assume to live with some family members. Maybe he left to go with his dad. I'm not 100% sure, but the oldest daughter was gone as well. She was away at college. Shortly after Kevin left, a neighbor realized that it seemed like the rest of Ruby's 4 youngest children had been left at the house alone for days while Ruby and Jodi disappeared to who knows where. The kids were also forced to do demanding physical labor. They were denied food for days at a time and were left to stand in the sun for hours, as well as sleep outdoors as punishment for being evil and manipulative. A welfare check was requested on the children at least once, but nothing ever really came from that. From May through August of 2023, it seems like Ruby and the kids were staying partly at her house, but mostly at Jodi's house. And then we get to August 30th at 10:46 a.m. when Ruby's 12-year-old son showed up at the neighbor's house. The neighbor called 911 and told them that the little boy had escaped from Jodi's Hildebrand's house. The boy had suffered injuries to his wrist and ankles, including damaged muscle and tissue from ropes and handcuffs that had been used to bind him. The boy later told officers that to treat his wounds, either Jodi or Ruby would put cayenne pepper and honey on them and cover them with duct tape. The little boy also told officers that his sister was still at Jodi's house. And when authorities arrived and searched Jodi's house, they found the boy's 9-year-old sister inside of a closet with her head shaved. She was sitting cross-legged in a darkened closet, and for hours she wouldn't move or talk to officers because she was so scared. The little girl was also extremely malnourished, with open wounds and duct tape around her arms and legs. Ruby and Jodi were both placed under arrest and each charged with 6 counts of child abuse, while the 2 children were taken to a local hospital. Eventually, the 4 youngest of Ruby's children were placed in state custody. It was after the arrest that Kevin was brought in for questioning, and this is when allegedly he found out for the first time everything about the state of his children. Kevin told the police that he had been separated for his wife because he had some problems and had not seen the children for over a year. He was in complete shock and visibly upset when he was told about the condition in which his children had been found. He was released without any charges. A lot of people do have questions about how much Kevin really knew, but I guess there's really no way for us to know. More details about how severe and cruel the children were being treated came from Ruby's own journal entries. In an early entry in the journal dated July 11th, 2023, Ruby wrote about a big day for evil when she wrote that her daughter manipulates her. In the same entry, she wrote about when she forced her 12-year-old son to stand in the sun. She told him to stand in the sun with his sun hat after she claimed that he was defiant and refused to do so. Ruby wrote that her son's demon stays in the shade, so she pushed him back out into the sun and later harmed him with a cactus. She wrote about how she would starve her children from food and water, about how they were possessed. She would tell the kids that they were evil and possessed and convince them that they were evil and explain to them that the treatment they were receiving was to help them repent. The kids would be kicked, tied and bound, their heads would be held underwater, their oxygen supply would be blocked, and then they would be told that everything that was being done to them was an act of love. Absolutely disgusting. In court, Ruby turned on Jodi, basically putting all of the blame on her. She cried, apologized to her children, and blamed blame Jodi's cruel influence. She said, quote, "For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me. To my babies, you are a part of me. I believed dark was light and right was wrong. I would do anything in this world for you. I took from you all that was soft and safe and good." In November of 2023, Kevin filed for divorce and had full intentions of fighting for custody for their children. He also sued Jodi in a, quote, "effort to preserve her wealth and assets until appropriate action can be taken to make the kids whole," end quote. Ruby's oldest daughter, who was 20 years old, I'm pretty sure 20 years old at the time that Ruby was arrested, wrote publicly, quote, "Today has been a big day. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell people in CPS for years about this, and so glad they finally decided to step up," end quote. Both Ruby and Jodi were sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison for each of the 4 counts of aggravated abuse they pleaded guilty to be served consecutively with a maximum of 30 years. I don't really understand that. I guess it's a maximum of 30 years because it's a Utah law. Ruby and Kevin's 2 older kids are doing well. Their oldest daughter has spoken out about this a lot on social media. She's also written a book. It's called The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom. And when she was asked about how her siblings are doing, she said, quote, "They're all healing in their own ways and in their own time. As a family, we're doing our own part and trying to heal," end quote. Kevin was still fighting for custody for the 4 youngest children, and I believe that is still ongoing. The most recent update I could find online was that was still ongoing, and the children currently remain in professional care for the aggravated psychological and emotional injuries suffered. Did this make you so angry? Because it made my blood boil. That is all I have for today's case. Thank you for spending time with me today. If I missed anything, comment it. There was so much information on this case, so I'm sure there is something I missed, but I want to know what you guys have to say about this, because when it's mothers who do things like this to their own children, I will never understand it. But that is all from me today. I hope you guys are all having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.